Joining us is Rebecca Garrard. She's the legislative director at Citizen Action of New York. That's a grassroots organization tackling social issues. Ms. Garrard, thanks for being with us. First, legislative director, this is something that Congress could or couldn't do. I mean, they're going on recess. The Dems control the House and the Senate. Is there any hope for them moving on this?
There certainly is hope, and it is certainly something that should have been expected. The Supreme Court signaled that this was not something that they were going to allow the White House to take up again, and so certainly the Senate and the House should have realized that this was going to fall at their feet. So this shouldn't have been a surprise.
Who does this affect in terms of demographics, location, socioeconomic class?
Yeah, it no surprise, it disproportionately impacts communities of color. So right now we have Black renters who are twice as likely to be unable to pay rent. We have Latino and Asian renters who are 1.5 times more likely to be unable to pay rent than their white counterparts. So this crisis is affecting those who are already most impacted, those who are low income, those who face the racial barriers that existed in this country pre-pandemic and have only been, those conditions have been exacerbated post-pandemic.
I want to play a little devil's advocate if I can here. At the end of the day, the U.S. is a free market economy. We've been airing reports about people saying that they can't hire people. People don't want to come back to work. You've also had rent forgiveness in lots of cases. How do you wean people off of this situation of like, I don't need to work because I don't need to pay housing? This might be the extreme that we're dealing with, but that's a criticism that's often brought up in this conversation.
Yeah. My comment to that would be it's sort of a false narrative. The moratorium does not excuse the obligation to pay rent. And especially given the quote that you highlighted coming into this piece, we have almost $50 billion nationally in rent assistance that has been allotted federally. And yet a tenth of that, less than a tenth of that, has been able to be distributed. And so that's deeply problematic for tenants, but it's also deeply problematic for landlords. And the reality is that once a tenant is evicted, yes, we have an enormously concerning wave of homelessness, especially given the Delta variant. But also, this is not good for small landlords who rely on rent to be able to maintain, sustain, and keep their properties. And so maintaining this moratorium, preventing evictions, keeping tenants in place is not just good for tenants, but it's good for those property owners because it keeps the pipeline open for them to be able to collect back rent, which the door shuts on as soon as an eviction starts.
Where is that money? There's a big gap here of money that's been allocated but not distributed. Where is it, and why is it not getting to the people who need it?
Yes, this is the problem with the systems that our states have created in order to get this money out the door. There are the typical bureaucratic means-tested programs which require huge amounts of paperwork on the part of tenants, huge amounts of paperwork on the part of landlords, and more we are a society where this type of paperwork does not exist. We are digital in nature, and so it has been really inaccessible for all parties, right, on both sides of the equation, to fulfill all the requirements, right, of these systems. And we said this going into the structuring of these programs, and there really is no more evidence of that than the fact that less than 10% has been able to be distributed.